So today we got the news that MultiVersus is shutting down. Temporarily, until 2024 when it will relaunch. So let's talk about this. For the last month or so, MultiVersus has been totally silent online. Some people were worried the game was actually going to be cancelled, while others just assumed the devs were hard at work preparing a strong amount of content for the next season of the game. You see, we had been anticipating the end of Season 2 and the start of Season 3. This seasonal transition had actually been delayed until March 31st. So MultiVersus fans entered this week hopeful the content drought and silence from the devs was almost over. Well, the devs have now spoken, but it seems that content drought has been extended far longer than anyone was going to guess. MultiVersus on Twitter wrote, "MVPs, thank you for the support during open beta. The feedback and inspiration has been amazing. Open beta will close on June 25th as we prepare for full launch in early 2024. Hashtag MultiVersus will be back better than ever with new content, features, modes, and more when we return." So 90 days from today, MultiVersus open beta, the current state of the game, is going to end. The game will get shut down until a relaunch, or rather, should I call it a true launch of the game, sometime in early 2024. There was an attached video to that tweet from Tony, so let's check it out.
Hi everyone, this is Tony from Player First Games, and I'm here today on behalf of the entire MultiVersus team to say thank you for your support during our open beta. We've been excited to see the interest and enthusiasm from the community, and your feedback has been invaluable to us. We continue to be humbled by the awards the game has received, and excited to see the enjoyment that MultiVersus has brought to players. Throughout our open beta, we've been working hard to build the best gameplay experience, and we appreciate all the inspiration you've given us. Our open beta has been an important learning opportunity for us, and a stepping stone to the next phase of MultiVersus. We know there's still a lot of work to do. As a result, we have a clear view of what we need to focus on, specifically the content cadence of new characters, maps, and modes, to give you more ways to enjoy the game. Along with an updated netcode and more matchmaking improvements, we'll also be reworking the progression system based on your feedback, and looking at new ways for you to connect with your friends in the game. To do this the right way, we'll be closing the MultiVersus open beta 90 days from today. As part of this process, we'll be pausing updates and taking the game offline as we prepare for the launch of MultiVersus, which we're targeting for early 2024. I'm sure you're wondering what this means for you. During this downtime, all online modes and features will be unavailable. You'll have limited offline access to the training room, known as a lab, and local matches, along with access to your characters and cosmetic items within these modes. We do know that this news might be disappointing, but rest assured, MultiVersus will be back. We'll also ensure that all your progress and content will carry over when MultiVersus returns next year, with a variety of new content, features, and modes. Along the way, we'll be providing updates, so keep an eye on our social channels and website. Thank you again to the entire MultiVersus community. We greatly appreciate your passion and excitement, and look forward to our next chapter with you. Thank you.
We can also look over at the FAQ section of the website that they linked on that Twitter post. We can get some more specific details, most notably that April 4th is the deadline for when people will still be able to download MultiVersus. And after April 4th, no more new updates will happen for MultiVersus. The game will still be playable online until June 25th when the open beta closes. There is no Season 3 happening after March 31st. Instead, Season 2 will continue with daily missions and Battle Pass points and all that stuff until the now extended end date of the open beta happening on June 25th. After that, the game will be completely shut down and only playable offline until early 2024 and a relaunch. Alright, well I have some mixed feelings about all this. On the one hand, I do think this is the right move. MultiVersus lost an enormous amount of its player base since open beta launched last summer. Recently, with the content and communication drought we've been having over the last few months, they were hitting all-time lows. And truth was, there was very little reason for even the most die-hard MultiVersus fans to be logging into the game every day. Lately, people were talking about the game as if it were already dead, or at least very likely to be the next canceled game we hear about. So having a clear relaunch with a lot of time to prepare a strong amount of content for next year and fix a lot of the issues the game has, being able to, when it returns, set expectations with a proper roadmap for how much content to expect and when the player base will see it, and create a consistent pace for the release schedule of characters, stages, battle passes, events, and more. That is exactly what this game sorely needs. So I do think this is the right move. Taking some time off, preparing a bunch of content, preparing what they want to do with this game, and then relaunching. However, this is also clearly not what their original intention was. Yes, the game has been called an open beta this entire time, but it's pretty obvious the game shutting down for half of a year was not the plan they intended from the start. The game we've had was supposed to just slowly grow into the final product. This is made clear because they have been selling things to players the whole time, particularly the very expensive Founders Packs, and I'm someone who bought one, which give you more character tickets than are even possible to spend at this point. Not even close to enough characters exist in the game to get your money's worth. That, of course, will still carry over to the relaunch, but still it's pretty clear that this probably wasn't their initial plan for what they were going to do with this game, ending the open beta and relaunching like a year later. So this shutdown and relaunch comes off very desperate, like they have no other choice but to shut it down and relaunch. Had they shut the game down shortly after Marvin was released, or even at the original intended endpoint for Season 2 before they delayed it, that would have looked purposeful. That would have looked like they always intended to end the open beta and relaunch with what they had learned from the open beta. That would have looked like they are self-aware enough to know when they simply don't have enough content and resources to keep the game going in the near future. As it is, however, this is happening after a delayed end to Season 2. This looks like they've been backed into a corner and have lost too many players to try and gain them back without shutting down and relaunching. It certainly seems like they've simply decided to fall back on the open beta label the game has to save face and try again. That they were not capable of anything close to what they had attempted to bring to the table with this game on this first attempt. Now, I'll repeat, I do think this is the right move. Relaunching is a desperate last-ditch attempt to be able to fix the game and regain its player base, but it's still the right move, and probably the only way to potentially save this game. However, because of how things went down, it's very clear they actually screwed up on their first attempt with MultiVersus. So whether players will have faith in the company to relaunch and fix the issues the game has, and avoid setting themselves up to run out of content again next time, or mismanage the game in some other way so badly it loses all its players again, that's totally up to how much faith we all have in this company and this game now. So how many people return to give the game a second try? That's, again, up to the fanbase, up to the faith we have with Player First Games, the Player First Games team, and MultiVersus itself. Can the devs learn from the pitfalls this game fell into that caused it to crash so hard? And will players give the game a second try at all after seeing it in this state over the last few months? Only time will tell. Personally, I'm actually very hopeful and excited about a relaunch next year, as had they not announced this and simply instead tried to roll out content that they've been working on over the last few months and try to be consistent after, Season 3 started or something, when it's been pretty clear that they fell behind, so far behind the game actually essentially had a giant drought for a few months, I was pessimistic the game would ever recover if they had just attempted to do that. Now there's at least a chance it could have a really strong relaunch. Maybe next time the game will actually be the MultiVersus experience everyone was dreaming it would be. The game everyone was hopeful for that caused millions of players to flock to this game when it first launched. A free-to-play fighting game, Smash Bros. Equivalent with a giant franchise crossover extravaganza thing. There's so much potential in this project. I think that's why so many people love MultiVersus. It's not so much what it is, it's what it could be. So let's all stay hopeful that it will come back stronger than ever. But for now, we will soon have to say goodbye to MultiVersus for the time being. Now, there is still a bit of a hanging question about the immediate future of the game. Essentially, are we going to get anything new before the end? Season 2 is being extended all the way until June 25th, and we have been told no more updates will happen after April 4th. So does that mean an update will happen before April 4th? The character I have been claiming would likely be the next character we'd see for like a third of a year now I've been saying this is the Joker, and he still never showed up. And a while back, Tony did say more characters than just Marvin would happen in Season 2. Obviously, things have drastically changed since he wrote that, so I'm not going to hold him to that tweet, but could they give us one final character release before the end? A last hurrah, so we have something new after this long content drought, something for the loyal fanbase that have stuck with this game. Well, April 1st, of course, is April Fool's Day, which is a few days before April 4th when we've been told the game's not going to get any more content. And April Fool's Day seems like a prime date to drop the Joker. So could we finally see the Clown Prince of Crime in MultiVersus before the game leaves us until next year? Maybe. Honestly, I could see that one going either way. Save everything for the relaunch and not waste any content releases now when the game is going to close down anyway. Or they could throw the fans a bone since we waited this long already and give us a new character. You also have, of course, the perfect date lined up to drop this particular character, the Joker, on April Fool's Day. Hard to say what will happen, but I think it's possible we could see the Joker before the end. Possible. Now, will he look the way I said I saw him looking? At this point, honestly, who knows? They've already had long enough to totally rework him if they wanted to. Redesign his whole look, whatever. And if we have to wait until relaunch, anything I had heard about this game could completely change by then. Characters could get shelved or completely canceled. It's basically back to square one with speculation once they relaunch. I do assume the characters I heard will still be happening when they do relaunch, but when exactly they'll show up, who knows? And things can always change outside of MultiVersus that could affect who we end up seeing in the end. For example, the charges against Justin Roiland were dropped recently. Whether he returns to Rick and Morty or his other projects, I do not know. But things like that can affect whether a character, like, say, Pickle Rick, for example, could get into MultiVersus. Things outside of MultiVersus can have an effect on what happens with the game. Or how Gandalf was planned to be in MultiVersus before the rights to Lord of the Rings changed hands. The state of any character or franchise that character is from can be in a totally different position a year from now. It's just completely unknowable. So again, I think next year when they relaunch, it's going to be a total reset for speculation. Sussy? Susie? Multiverse Sussy? Multiverse Susie? I never know. Anyway, they wrote, I wonder if we'll see the complete leaked roster for the full release. And yeah, I'm wondering the same thing. Will we see everything that's been rumored once the game relaunches next year? Is all those characters we've been talking about just going to show up at relaunch or shortly after? Or is it going to be the opposite? Is all this leaked information simply going to be outdated next year and everything's going to be totally different? It's really hard to say. Perhaps at some point, maybe April 4th or June 25th, I'll make another video and reveal the rest of what I had heard about MultiVersus. As again, it will likely all be outdated for whatever we end up seeing next year upon relaunch anyway. I will add that I do actually know about a few pieces of merchandise, some other forms of media that MultiVersus was supposed to get that still haven't been launched or published. I think this was partly because they involved characters that still aren't actually in the game, so maybe we will see more than just the MultiVersus game pop up when it relaunches next year. I would really love to get my hands on those cool trading cards that they made. Stuff like that would be sweet to see actually get sent out to the public. And if MultiVersus can launch with a large advertising campaign, along with merchandise and other stuff, other forms of media for MultiVersus, that would certainly help the relaunch feel like the actual launch of the game, and what we had so far really just feel like an open beta that we got to play early. Alright, well that's everything I wanted to talk about today. What do you think about MultiVersus shutting down and relaunching in 2024? Do you think this is the right move, or are you angry that we had to wait through a delayed Season 2 just to hear this news? Do you think a relaunch will regain trust with the player base, or do you think they've lost that faith with the fan base during open beta? And do you think we could finally see the Joker added to the game or any other last bit pieces of content before April 4th? If you have any thoughts or comments about any of the stuff I talked about in this video, feel free to leave them below.
Remember to like the video, leave a comment in the section below, and subscribe to Papa Gino's
Twitter, Patreon, Discord, Twitch.